Maria Ireland. They came in for a landing fairly quickly there, but we've arrived. We're at the airport. Good, lovely to have you with us. Thanks a million for sharing and joining with us on Radio Maria Ireland here for our morning Chatechesis. And a wave and a shout to everybody on Facebook and YouTube, of course, watching in live as well. I was just checking for our YouTube video streaming is working well. What we've been trying to do lately is stream the radio actually onto YouTube as well. We discovered that Radio Maria in Spain have been doing this for some time, which is very interesting that you can stream the radio onto a YouTube channel. And our plan is to try to mix and match a little bit with the video we're already doing and build on it a little bit as we go. So if you're connected on our YouTube channel, maybe just let us know there if it's coming through at this stage. Otherwise, the video will be streamed certainly to our Facebook channel as well. Now, I just noticed my microphone isn't connected here either, so I just hope this is coming through okay on the camera mic. I'll connect in the other microphone there when we stop for a music break and improve the sound quality, I hope, a little bit for you on the video stream. Excuse me. There's always 1,000 little things to remember here every day, and something always gets missed out somewhere along the line. Now, do please get in touch with us. Mary will answer the phone downstairs. 089 467 2000 is the text only, WhatsApp only, 089 467 2000. But the landline will be answered certainly 014 123456, 014 123456. Do please give a call. You might have a prayer intention, a music request maybe for Dermot for later on, maybe a little feedback as well. We always like to get feedback. Everybody likes to know that they're doing a good job. And maybe you have a favourite programme, maybe you have an insight or a little faith story, a glory story as the younger crowd here call them, that you might like to share, a God incidence, a life to the full moment. If you're a regular listener to Radio Maria, you've tripped across these little expressions that we use by way of encouraging and inviting you to participate in the conversation here that is Radio Maria, because it's not just, as you know, a question of delivering audio programming, but of interacting with you and sharing with you and encouraging you in so many ways. Now, a little shout out to a couple of lovely things that are happening during the month of August, and thanks indeed to Lorraine, who was in touch from the Legion of Mary. And they're organising to commemorate 100 years of the founding of the Legion of Mary. The Legion was founded here in Dublin on the 7th of September 1921. So this coming 7th of September is only a short distance away. 100 years, and this is an organisation which has since spanned the globe, arguably more so than any other such movement or apostolate or even secular entity emanating from our fair shores. The Legion of Mary has embraced the church throughout the world. It certainly is present in every diocese in the world, and I would, argue that there probably aren't any countries, I don't think so, that don't have the Legion of Mary, or at least haven't had visitors to help extend and establish the Legion. And not too many years ago, there was a young man who went from Argentina as a Legion of Mary envoy to Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. When I heard those first, I had to look at the map and say, where on earth are all these countries? And of course, not that far, of course, from Pakistan, which gives you a sense of geography there, into the far east, sort of the further east than the Middle East is where you're going with that geography. So Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, again, if you haven't heard of them, they're on the map for sure. Big, massive countries. I think there's a lot of desert regions, certainly not that well populated, and as I understand it, predominantly Muslim countries too. And yet, Bernardo Dinardo, who's now a priest of the church, went off as he gave up his career as a lawyer and went off as an envoy for 3 years, I think, at the time, to cross over into these countries. And kept going further east, ended up in Nepal. Again, you're on the border with China there. And certainly interacted with members of the Legion of Mary in each of these countries. Most extraordinary. Again, so that's what I'm saying, 100 year celebration since the founding of the Legion. Absolutely amazing gift and blessing it is. So, right to celebrate that. Even places like Alaska, might have told that story. I love to repeat it nonetheless, of Father Ryan, who since died. He went to his reward, a Holy Ghost priest, Spiritan, whom I met and shared breakfast with on a number of occasions in Kimmage Manor. But telling of his story of his friendship with Frank Duff and his return from Alaska as a Spiritan, and how the Legion was established there from Seattle in Washington State up to Alaska on the far northwest corner there of the North American continent. And one of the letters I came across from Frank Duff to Father Ryan spoke of how the Legion Tessera, the Legion prayer card, had now been translated into Eskimo. This was back in 1976. So again, just the far-reaching nature of the Legion of Mary, a most extraordinary organisation, and has contributed so valiantly to the work of the Church. Ordinary lay people, as Pope Paul VI describes St. Paul VI now, the Legion knows how to use the little people. And I have a very strong sort of kinship with the Legion and its association with Radio Maria. That indeed, even in Radio Maria, we seek indeed to engage and use, in the best sense, of course, the little people. It's not, again, I just love that idea. It's not about celebrity. It's not about anything grandiose or anything of major consequences the world would look upon it. Rather, we're here in humble service. Moses, we heard in the first reading today, the most humble man on earth, and yet he is no small name made for himself through the book of Exodus. We're reading the book of Numbers, of course, at Holy Mass there this morning. So Moses, in spite of his status and his closeness to the Lord and his position as leader of these people from Egypt in slavery to the promised land through the wilderness, and it was no easy task, and he met with all kinds of opposition, and yet a humble man in the face of all of this, and knowing his own need of God's mercy, and yet a man of real conviction and real zeal and of drive. And we learn of his righteousness through the time he murdered an Egyptian who was giving grief to a fellow Hebrew, which meant that he fled from Pharaoh and ended up in the wilderness. He defended his Cushite wife and her flock. They were drinking at the well and were being put upon, I think, by Midian shepherds and not being allowed to tend to their flock and share the well water. And Moses, again, in his righteousness, stood in for her and defended her and ended up being introduced to her family and ended up marrying her, of course, afterwards. Is it Jethro? Is that the name of Moses' father-in-law? There's a quiz question. I'm like Father Owen now in the morning. I think it's Jethro was the father of his father-in-law, who also advised Moses later, interestingly as well, that he had taken on too much for himself in the wilderness, and he sought to subdivide his authority into smaller groups, and that the more difficult questions would be brought to Moses instead. Interesting that he's a humble enough man to take advice from his father-in-law and following it through as well. So it's possible, is the point I'm making, to be like Moses, then a man of humility, but also a person of righteousness too. Such was the nature of Frank Duff indeed, and the success of the Legion, if it's a kind of quote unquote type word, because success is really, how do you measure that? It can only be measured in God's eyes in the end. Whatever the world calculates is just whatever the world sees. The Lord knows what success is in the order of grace. But the Legion of Mary, indeed, in the order of grace, certainly a resounding influence in the world. And Frank Duff not taking any of this to his own credit, but rather attributing everything to Our Blessed Lady. So that brings me back to where I started. For the centenary of the Legion, there's being organised a 33-day preparation, consecration to Jesus through Mary, which will begin on the 5th of August. Today is the 3rd, so beginning on Thursday. Now, I've been in touch with Laureen. I'm just not sure just yet if we can manage to tie it in with the radio here. I'd certainly love to do it. I don't know if they had plans at the minute for recording it. It's just going to be over Zoom. They've already begun, Father Colin Mannion, with the Dominicans locally here to us in Tala, and a wonderful legionary and long-time friend of my own, and we would have soldiered together on Frank Duff's cause many years ago now, 16 years ago, or thereabouts, and he's since ordained a priest. Thank God, and doing wonderful work as the promoter of the Rosary for the Dominicans here in Ireland. But he has led up an online Zoom open-ended sort of conference, and they call it Mary's Channel of Grace. And so anyone can join in on that in the evening times. And so beginning at 8 o'clock, I think it is, in the evening, starting from the 5th of August, they have the Rosary at every session, every evening, and they'll be starting a 33-day preparation of consecration to Jesus through Mary, which will conclude on the centenary of the Legion of Mary as well. So a great initiative there. We'll, please God, tomorrow have Father Colin on the radio here for you, and I think Eamonn is joining him as well, and they'll chat about this wonderful initiative. So they'll pray the Rosary and Legion prayers, recite daily readings in preparation for consecration to Jesus through Mary, and invoke Frank Duff's prayer for the conversion of the whole world. So a lovely fitting way, a nice novel idea as well for preparing for the centenary of the Legion of Mary. So well done to Father Colin and all involved indeed in that great initiative. Now, can I give another little plug as well and a shout out, and you'll be hearing a bit more on this. There's been a couple of jingles prepared, Aidan tells me, in my absence, that no doubt you may have heard too, that on the 14th of August, so this will be this week on Saturday, we're having our own first Radio Maria conference. You've heard certainly of the Rosary Rally for Knock, the Women's Conference, Father Marius and Father Marius' Great Men's Conference, that'll be coming up in September. So we're establishing our own little conference here for you on Radio Maria as well, and that will be Saturday week, so from 11 in the morning till 5 in the evening. Obviously you don't need to be tuned into the whole lot, but you can grab moments of it right throughout the day, and we have a wonderful lineup of guests. I'll be giving a little input myself, being the year that's in it and the moment that's in it, on the question of the Legion of Mary and on our Blessed Lady. The title of the conference is called Behold Your Mother, and so the theme really of the whole day will be very Marian, and how fitting, of course, for Radio Maria that it should be so. Father Billy Swan will come on, share a chat with us. Sister Claire, is it? The Facebook notification of it is up there for you to get the full details on it too. Father John, my brother, will feature as well, and it'll be on, again, all things to do with Our Lady. Aidan, we haven't sort of finalised the moment in the morning. We'll do a Chatechesis as well on the Saturday morning in relation to questions regarding Marian doctrine and issues or concerns or challenges maybe to church teaching on Our Blessed Lady. So we'll get the full picture of that together. We'll be hounding you with it over the next 2 weeks well, I don't mean that obviously, literally, we'll be reminding you of it regularly over the next week or two. And we do hope you can join in at some point in the day on Saturday the 14th of August, again in anticipation of the feast of the Assumption of Our Lady into heaven and all things Marian. So Behold Your Mother, a Radio Maria Ireland conference on Our Blessed Lady, starting at 11:15, the Chatechesis time for you on that Saturday, and continuing on right through the day with our usual intervening slots too, of course, for the Rosary and our Liturgy of the Hours. I must check actually, I see I've been off the past week, so I'm a little bit out of sync, and will re-establish my equilibrium in the next day or two, of course, and just see. I think Thomas Roach might be taking a back seat that day for Ceolagus Crack, and there'll be speakers lined up to fill all of those moments. The keynote speaker for us is Steve Ray, who is a marvellous speaker and a convert from Protestantism to Catholicism, and will be sharing, no doubt, some of his story and some of his doctrine. Well-renowned speaker, of course, on EWTN, and has featured in many a conference and many a, highlighted certainly many an exchange audio-visually in the States. Would be very well known in the States, Steve Ray. He did a series some years ago, which I used in school, actually, in class, and it was there was several strands to it. One was on St. Paul, another one, I think, a video series on the Holy Land, I think it was. And I just remember showing those videos in class, and he used to wear his cowboy hat and just had a very interesting narrative in relation to being in situ at the various places in the Holy Land and sharing the story of St. Paul's encounters at given places, or from the Gospels, and again echoing his former life as a Protestant minister and as a Protestant evangelizer, and now his Catholic perspective on all of that. So they were a fascinating series. I used to play a couple of those in school for the children, just to, again, give them something different to help form them in their faith. Ooh, when was that? That was more than 10 years ago now as well. Where does all these years, where did they be going? They'd be flying past. So that's some little highlights there for this Saturday week coming up for us here as well. So do look out for that. We're on the road with our travelling too, and it was lovely to get to Omagh. I wasn't on the radio, I don't think, since. That was a week ago last on Sunday. And just sincere thanks to Father Hassan and the priests of the parish there, Father McDermott too, and the lovely reception we received and the kind welcome and the blessings we enjoyed in meeting wonderful people in the parish of Omagh. And lovely to see the great crowds at Mass, of course, as well. And the great fastidiousness and care, I might also add, for everyone's health and well-being. An army of volunteers there helping with the work of sanitising and all those necessary elements. Really marvellous to see the community building and growing there together as well. And thanks to the O'Neills, we had a lovely kind reception from the O'Neills, who treated us royally on our visit too. So we're looking forward, please God, this coming Sunday going to Newry. Now again, I haven't got my bearings fully yet as to which parish church we'll be visiting, and some of those involved, but I know that's coming up next Sunday morning, please God. So very much looking forward to going to Newry. So from the northwest, Omagh, to the northeast in Newry. And it's lovely too. Father Billy Swan came to see us there lately and invite us down to Wexford in September, and to tie it in with the centenary of the Legion too, that I might say a few words on Frank Duff and the Legion while I'm there, and to do promotion on the Saturday evening vigil masses and the Sunday morning in the two churches in the town of Wexford. So that'll be in September, second weekend in September as well, please God. I was just chatting with Kathy as well on the phone. I know she has great ambitions to make a start, a firm start. We certainly have done lots of, she's done great work down in Kerry in the southwest, and so anxious that we might get through to a couple of parishes in Kerry before too long as well. And it just struck me this morning, hey, isn't that great? You've got Omagh in the northwest, Newry in the northeast, Wexford in the southeast, and Kerry in the offing, please God, in the southwest. Four corners of Ireland. Where would you be going? So that's the plan. It's lovely in the fine weather and with the restrictions lifted to be energised now into getting back on track in full swing. This week happens to be a slightly quieter week in the studio building because of holidays. Aidan's away and Sarah's away, Mary Kate is away. So where things are a little bit thin on the ground for us this week. But we'll all work out. We have no hesitation. Adela's kind of come in to help us out, and Joe spending a bit more time here as well. And we one or two other volunteers lined up. So we'll cover the gaps during the holiday time easily enough. But I know that next week, please God, that with Sarah back in person and Aidan back in harness too, we'll have a full team and we'll power on again with the next drive forward by way of promotion. So there's a little update for you in terms of internal activity here at the radio station, and all of this is with a view to building, growing and bringing greater blessings to many more souls wherever we go. And you know, it's really lovely when we visit a parish like that is to encounter people who are already listening to the radio and enjoying tuning in and realising the great blessing it is to be part of the Radio Maria family here too. And nice too to meet people who are like, oh, really? We have a Catholic radio station. It's amazing how word still, needs to get out there. So just a big thank you to everybody who does that local promotion, everybody who's very good to help us and encourage others to tune in and listen in and to be part of the radio as well. So fantastic. So we have a piece of music lined up, and just again to encourage you to get in touch, to make contact with us, to share with us, and to be part of the program here as well. So once more, 089467200 is the text and WhatsApp number. Email info@radiomaria.ie and the telephone 014 Did we track down that little track we did? Great, Joe, very good. Dermot was in touch with us. I know Dermot is a regular listener, and shout out to Dermot. Thanks for texting in this morning to Father Owen's program. And he was chatting, Father Owen was chatting about the Feast of the Assumption of Our Lady into Heaven and the dogma and the doctrine. And so Dermot suggested a lovely little piece of plain chant that we might, I think Signum Magnum, if I'm not mistaken, is the name I recall. Signum meaning sign, magnum meaning magnify or great or big. So a great sign, Signum Magnum. So thanks Dermot for this request, a little different little piece of music now, but a chant. And we'll be back with you very shortly. Thanks, Joe.
About 2.5 minutes, Father, just let you know.
Perfect, thanks, Joe.
About 20 seconds there, Father. Thanks very much.
Oh, isn't that a beautiful little piece of chant there? Thanks for finding that for me there, Joe. And thanks Dermot, who requested that a little earlier as well in connection with the Feast of the Assumption of Our Lady into Heaven, which of course is coming up very soon. Signum Magnum is a reference to the book of Revelation and a great sign appearing in heaven. Signum Magnum apparuit in cielo. A woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. So beautiful piece of chant composed there. And I think in connection with Pope Paul VI and a document that he wrote and published in 1967 in relation to Our Lady of Fatima, and connecting of course to this book of Revelation, the woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, a crown of 12 stars, that the serpent seeking to devour her child, but rescued, of course, and the woman, of course, rescued likewise. So very important, Our Lady as a sign. And again, echoing back to the front end of the Bible, the book of Genesis, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed, was God speaking to the serpent after the fall. And so the woman of Genesis is the same woman of Revelation, bearing Christ into the world. So her assumption into heaven follows naturally. This might well be one of the questions that will come up for our day with Our Lady, Behold Thy Mother, on Saturday week. How is it that Our Lady could be taken both body and soul into heaven? And did Our Lady actually die? Or did she simply fall asleep? Did she pass through death? And again, surely the human body is we receive a glorified body in the next life. How is it that she could be assumed like that? Well, the answer is very simple, really. It's the question of she being conceived without sin, which is a very consistent body of doctrine in relation to Our Blessed Lady, that because she is not guilty of any sin and the most perfect vessel to contain and bear, is the correct word, Jesus to the world, so she the first living tabernacle of the Lord Most High, thereby knowing no taint of sin, it follows quite consistently, as I say, and logically too, that she should be taken both body and soul into heaven. She's already a dwelling place of the Lord. There's no need for her, like the first Eve and all of us, to pass through the corruption of death on account of our sin, for she was without sin. Protestants, of course, would contend that from a height and beg to differ with us completely. But they do so, I would argue, that in order to maintain their position of either justification by grace or by faith alone. And, to justify those positions, a lot of the Catholic doctrines that we're so familiar with have to be knocked over. And the consistency, falls apart, then the argument it gets fractured, and you end up denying priesthood, denying the papacy, denying the Holy Eucharist. A lot of other things just come cascading down with it. Frank Duff will be very strong on that idea that the more our devotion to Our Blessed Lady and the honour that we give to her, and the more our understanding of Our Lady grows, the closer we come to our Divine Son. And Frank had his own personal journey actually in that regard. It speaks of this, that it really wasn't until I think around the year 1917. No, I should correct myself. I think about 1919. He was visiting Mount Melleray, and what brought him to Mount Melleray was a friend of his, Joe Gabbett, was a bit fond of the drink and used to fall off the wagon every now and again. And Melleray was a place known, there was many Cistercians there at the time, for people to go on retreat and recover from their addiction. We have places like Coenvira now, and so many other such places, Ginacalo, and so on. So the Cistercians, they're not engaged in that ministry now. But back then, 1919, Frank brought Joe Gabbett down there, must have taken time off work, and asked the guest master, look, have you any suitable reading on Our Blessed Lady? And when he picked up a book called The Knowledge of Mary by Januarius de Concilio, written in the late 1890s, what Frank discovered for himself, that it was his knowledge of Our Lady which was so deficient that led him to grapple with the idea of consecration to Jesus through Mary, that he understood himself to have a very superficial understanding of Our Lady's role. And this was a complete breakthrough for him, just a turning point on his own spiritual journey. And once he got it, once the penny had dropped, he figured and understood, and thereafter devoured every book he could get his hands on, in English and in French and in Latin, on Our Blessed Lady, to beef up his doctrinal understanding. And all of that accumulated reading and wisdom comes bursting through in the lines of the Legion of Mary handbook ever after, and in Frank Duff's many articles that he wrote concerning Our Blessed Lady. And the just enormous fruitfulness of the Legion with the homeless, with the poor, and with the work of evangelization in the church. And so much so, Frank would describe a Legion of Mary Presidium, a little cell group there that gathers to pray in honor of Our Lady and do some local work in honor of Our Lady for the church, as a local presence of Mary. That you don't really need to be travelling to shrines and places like that. They're all good, of course, and it's not to take from that, but that where two or three are gathered, the same Pentecostal scene of Our Lady there with the apostles can strike a group of the Legion of Mary and animate them with the Holy Spirit and disperse them into the corners of the parish to do immense work and bring souls back to the Lord in 1,000 different ways. So if we might contest perhaps some of Frank Duff's theology, the fruitfulness of his ministries and his labour are incontestable, is evident. The massive fruits have come. And I'm really looking forward, really, we've started already, but all the more sharing more with you in the course of the centenary year of the founding of the Legion of Mary. I'll have a longer chat maybe with Mary Stinson too. Her show, by the way, is this evening, All Things Legion at 6:10, and she's been inviting guests from all over the world, as much as locally, to share their Legion experience and their own journey with the Legion of Mary as well. Again, just commemorating the centenary that's in it. And I'm hoping it's a two-way street, that Legionaries are enjoying it as well as it's giving an opening for others to hear about this great movement and great work as one preeminent, I would suggest among many, of drawing souls to holiness. That's the object of the Legion of Mary. We start our own Legion Presidium here at the radio too. We've called it Queen of Radio Maria. Not a no-brainer. Each Presidium has a title of Our Lady that it takes, and it's invoked then in the prayers that accompany the meeting. But what I started to do is to record the little readings from the handbook and the short allocutio that I would be accustomed to giving at the Legion meetings, and we do hope to make them available to you in podcast form on our website as well, if anybody wants to take the time to follow back on them. So I haven't got to finally editing and setting that up, but that will come, please God, in due course too. So very good. Thanks to all who are getting in touch and all who are tuning in, and lovely to have your company here as well. Lovely message here from a listener in Donegal. An elderly lady has her own difficulties now and again, and is helped so much by listening into Radio Maria, and she says thank you so much for all your programs. I listen to it most of the time. So lovely to hear from you. Thanks for that lovely, very encouraging message there as well. And a shout out to Christine, who's watching in on Facebook, and Janine as well. Says good morning to us from the USA. So great to have our American Facebook participants here. Lovely to have you with us. And a funny thing, while I was on the holidays, I don't have a TV and seldom even get to look at a TV now these days. But I was visiting a home where they had, what do they call these things now? I suppose a smart TV, an Apple TV, whatever. And I had to admit it took me at least a half an hour to figure out how to use the controls. Just hadn't a clue in the world. But eventually discovered that, oh, wow, you can actually go online with this thing, whatever way it's connected to the internet, and was able to just connect in with our YouTube channel and to play back one or two of the videos there. And it just struck me as just extraordinary that on your TV screen you can watch as if it's a TV channel right there and then, the very same. And I was just impressed with the video quality, amateur and all as it is, but and the sound quality being so good as well. So I'm glad to hear that, and it's if it works, and if it's a way of people connecting in and tuning in, I think, well, thanks be to God. May that continue. If it is, as it were, stepping out into the world of cyberspace, stepping out into the world of the digital continent that needs to be evangelized for the Lord. Good. Let that be so. Let that be so. Now, Pope Francis is resuming his general audiences in the Paul VI Hall. They usually go into the Paul VI Hall, as I recall, when it's very hot. This month now, it's a bit of a scorcher. Lots of people in Rome, I think, go on holidays. They just can't bear the heat themselves. or if it's pouring rain, the Pope would go into the general audience hall. So apparently this week the general audience will resume in Paul VI Hall, and as is customary, the regular Wednesday meetings were suspended throughout the month of July to allow for a period of rest. That's no harm either, because the Pope was convalescing from his hospital visit as well, his colon surgery during that time. So most of his papal audiences were already suspended, really, with the exception of the Sunday Angelus, which was held from the balcony, of course, from the hospital, if you remember that. But so this Wednesday's general audience will take place in the Paul VI Hall, and it'll mark the resumption of a normal schedule, exactly a month after his operation. He's working his way in his Chatechesis through those audiences from the letter of St. Paul to the Galatians, and we'll pick up where he left off there, reflecting on the plan of salvation prepared by the Lord for every person. The God's grace, the Pope says, changes hearts, changes lives, and makes us see new paths. And that would certainly be true for all of us. And, it's not a one-off thing either. It's a continuous journey in that direction too. Now, another little item of news to share with you, that the Vatican has unveiled its official image for the 10th World Meeting of Families. And it's one by that lovely artist who has done the New Mysteries of the Rosary in Lourdes, and the same artist who did the college chapel, the Irish College in Rome, the chapel there as well. I think I have a printout of it here, which I'll hold up to the camera, and you'll get at least a sense of it, if I could hold it straight. It's just that beautiful iconographic style there of Jesus, Mary, and at the Last Supper. There's a number of images going on in the same, looks like St. John perhaps too, and it's reflecting on the Mass there and the Holy Eucharist. Let's see what the article hopefully gives me a little bit of insight as well. The theme for the World Meeting of Families is family love, a vocation and a path to holiness. So sacramental love between a man and a woman is a reflection of the indissoluble love and unity between Christ and the Church. Jesus sheds his blood for her. It's very evident there in the image with the chalices there. And this is the meaning behind the official image. So the love between a man and a woman, demanding that sacrificial self-giving of one to the other. And it's an indissoluble communion of persons. So Christ imaging that for us and showing us how that is to be lived. So it's the famous artist and Father Marco Ivan Rupnik, a Jesuit priest and an artist. So the work is entitled The Mystery is Great. The image portrays the wedding feast at Cana, with the bride and groom in the background, on the left covered by a veil. That's interesting. Let me just look at this again. Yes, they're kind of dimly portrayed there, with sort of sad eyes, but also wondrous eyes, I would say. Interesting what you can draw from an image like that. Jesus and Mary then are seen united at the moment when Mary tells her son they have no more wine, and in the foreground is the steward with the face of St. Paul as portrayed in classical iconography. It is St. Paul who removes the veil with his hand and, referring to the wedding, exclaims, "The mystery is great, but I speak in reference to Christ and the Church." So I'm going to hold that up to the camera there again so you get a look at it. Do look it up yourself. Hopefully will it come into focus for me. Of course, with the visual, what can you do? You need a separate camera. But I don't know how well you can see there the bride and groom in the background to the right of Jesus and Mary, the cross, of course, there. But certainly the familiar face of St. Paul, and pouring out the wine for the wedding feast, but helping us understand that the mystery there is Christ and his Church. Very wonderful idea, very simple and very, at the same time, very catechetical, really lovely image. So Father Rupnik's painting is the third official symbol to be published, along with the official prayer and the logo as well. It serves as a pastoral tool for the preparation and journey of families towards the World Meeting of Families. So the event, organised by the Vatican Dicastery for the Laity, Family and Life, along with the Diocese of Rome, will take place on the 6th anniversary of the encyclical Amoris Laetitia, and 4 years on from the publication of the Apostolic Exhortation Gaudete et Exultate. Remember, we went through here in Chatechesis Amoris Laetitia from cover to cover around the time of the World Meeting of Families too. So that's there. I think they're available certainly as podcasts there too. My own little reflections, reading through and joining in on that. And that was a great journey through 2018 for the World Meeting of Families that came here. So the meetings in Rome, I think, this time round, and we can see that those themes will be further developed and built upon, I'm sure, as well. So it's being presented in a new way, I suppose, online too, as part of the world meeting, so that every family in the world can participate and be part of it likewise. So very good. That's the World Meeting of Families. That's is there a date for that? The eagerly awaited 10th meeting. I see. Why are they giving us this late? It says here 22nd, 26th of June. That can. Oh, sorry, 2022. Shame on me. I wasn't reading ahead. So it's June of next year. So they're well ahead of themselves in preparing for that, which is good. Great. I'm going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid, in terms of our conversation and chat today. Well, that's a little update from a number of sources for you. Again, we're looking forward to, please God, Father Colm and Eamonn joining us tomorrow to tell us about the 33-day preparation of consecration, available via Zoom. If we can facilitate it here on the radio, we'll seek to try and do that. If not, it'll certainly be available there. That's to celebrate the centenary of the birth of the Legion of Mary, 33-day preparation. Saturday week again, the conference here for you, given to you by Radio Maria and for all our dear listeners and friends, in honour of Our Lady, Behold Your Mother, with some wonderful speakers lined up to share with us for that conference throughout the afternoon too. And do watch out for promotion endeavours increasing, please God, as the weeks go forward. Looking forward to a visit to Newry coming up with God's help this coming weekend as well. So if you're listening in anywhere in, around or near Newry, do please come out and visit us. We'll have full details of that as well in the coming days, and we'd love to meet you and love to share with you, and we do hope you can maybe come and help spread the gift and the blessing that is Radio Maria. Now there's a wealth of wonderful programming lined up for the afternoon with Patricia Keane, Health and Faith Matters, live here in the studio with Father Chris Hayden and Jackie Asco, chatting about relationships and sexuality education. So that'll be a very interesting topic to explore. That's after Sow and Grow, of course, with Margaret Griffin too, the wonderful gardening programme shared with you. And Aid to the Church Need will be on then at 3:30, and Pure in Heart with Harry and Friends will be at 4 o'clock. So lots of great live programming cascading towards you towards the afternoon here on Radio Maria. Just coming up to 12 o'clock now, so thanks indeed for your company. We'll allow our Angelus bells to give us a brief pause, and we'll be back then with the Angelus and midday prayer.